Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another video on the Football Fanatic channel. Now, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, today we are going to be doing a tier list. Obviously, I've done one of these before. I did it for the Ballon d'Or and I was predicting who I thought should have won that award. Obviously, it ended up with being Messi, but I thought it should have been Lewandowski. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So yeah, if you haven't already, check that out. But today, we're going to be doing it for the best players in Premier League history. In my last video, I did, a countdown the top 10 who I thought were the best players in football history. Check that out as well if you haven't already. But today we are going to be ranking from tier 4 to the greatest players of all time on who I think are the best players to ever play on English soil. So let's get into it. So, kicking things off, we obviously have 5 tiers: tier 4, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and the greatest of all time tier. That tier will rank the players who have left the biggest legacy on their respective clubs in the Premier League or the English League. So, let's start things off. Robin van Persie, this might be a little bit controversial, but I am going to put him in tier 2. A brilliant player. Don't get me wrong, such a fantastic, deadly striker, very clinical, but I don't think he really hit the ground running in terms of consistency, and I think he was way better at Arsenal than he was Man United. So for me, has to be tier 2. Frank Lampard, easily in the greatest tier for me, wins the Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard debate. Dennis Bergkamp, greatest as well. I'm going to put him ahead of Frank Lampard. I think he was just so magical and so pivotal in that invincible season. And N'Golo Kante, I'm going to put him in tier 2 as well. And I honestly think he could go up to be tier 1. Or in fact, you know what? I am going to put him in tier 1. You win the Champions League with Leicester, you win the PFA Player of the Year, you become one of the greatest midfielders in our whole generation, and then you go on to win the Champions League, countless Premier Leagues, and you just keep that consistency. He has to be up there as one of the best midfielders to ever grace the English game. Then we have Eden Hazard, again, a fantastic player. I am going to put him in tier 2. I just don't think he's really an end product type of player, but we obviously know how capable he was, how fantastic he was on the ball. He was brilliant, he was decisive, he was game deciding, but he wasn't as productive as the likes of Luis Suarez, Ronaldo and Salah, and he hasn't really shown it as consistent and as, it doesn't have the same longevity of the likes of Salah, Ronaldo and Luis Suarez. So I am going to put him in tier 2. David Silva, also tier 2. I'm going to put him ahead of Van Persie again. Van Persie is getting pushed back and back and back. But, yeah, you can't really go wrong with David Silva. This guy is probably the closest thing we've seen to Iniesta in the Premier League. Robert Perez, I'm going to put him in tier 2 as well, but I'm going to put him ahead of David Silva. Very pivotal in that invincible season as well, but not the same as the likes of Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry. Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering, but I do think I am going to put him at tier 2. Then we have Ruud van Nistelrooy, tier 1 as well. This guy was probably the most clinical striker the Premier scene, a very good poacher, amazing in the air. So for me, it has to be tier 2. Luis Suarez now, when you talk about prime, there's 2 ways you can see it. Longevity or what they did in their prime. Luis Suarez in his 2-year prime, it was short, but it was so incredible to see. In that Liverpool side that was obviously very weak at the time with Brendan Rodgers, they were struggling. They were struggling to get any points on the board. He comes in and they have a chance of winning the Prem until Gerrard did his little slip. But I do think Luis Suarez, if he continued a few more years at Liverpool, he would be up there. So for now, Luis Suarez tier 1, David Beckham tier 2. Pretty overrated in my eyes. I think that he's a bit overrated because of his looks, his style. Don't get me wrong, the man is handsome, but you can't really say he did more than his incredible passing ability and his incredible free kick ability. Now, don't get me wrong, his right foot was a wand. It was a magic wand, but apart from that, can't really credit him for anything else. Then Cristiano Ronaldo. Bear in mind, we are talking Prem career. In his final years, in 2008 he won the Ballon d'Or, and in 2009 he obviously took United to the Champions League final, which they lost to Barcelona. But in those last 2 years, he was easily the best player in the world. But you have to also take into consideration the first 5 years when he came as a little kid in that midfield position, breaking into that United team. You have to admire him for that. Harry Kane, tier 2 as well, but ahead of David Beckham, and I think ahead of Robin van Persie as well. The heir to the throne for Alan Shearer's goal-scoring record. He will definitely break it at some point in his career. Right now, he's kind of rising in his form, but he's obviously had nowhere near as productive a season as he had last season. Patrick Vieira, simply. You talk about a Kante that is way more powerful and has an incredible attacking threat. So basically not Kante, but this guy for me, what a player, a huge inspiration, and probably the reason Arsenal went invincible. Then we go to Yaya Toure, very similar to Patrick Vieira, but didn't do it as long and didn't do it as well. I'm going to put him right below Cristiano Ronaldo, and I'm actually going to put Ronaldo ahead of Luis Suarez, and I'm also going to put Patrick Vieira instead of both Bergkamp and Lampard. Then we have Vidic. Now, before I put Vidic, I also want to put the man himself, Rio Ferdinand. These two as a duo was just a rock, just a boulder, one molded boulder where there's two sides to that rock that you can't break through. They were outworking each other. They were trying to out-physicality. That's not a word. They were trying to out-strength one another. They were trying to outperform one another. They were brilliant to watch. They were such a nightmare for any attack. So easily for me, a tier 1. And I've actually met Vidic. I also met Van Persie the same day, but I don't actually have a picture with Van Persie. But this is the picture of Vidic on your screen a couple of years ago. But such a nice guy. And yeah, for that, I think I'm going to put him in the greatest tier. No, I'm joking. He is easily a tier 1 player. Won the Premier League a couple times with United as well, so has to be up there. Then we go to Ryan Giggs. Carrying on, we go to a Manchester United legend, but a player who I don't think is as productive as the likes of Ronaldo, Suarez, Salah. But his longevity, you can't fault it. I'm going to put him in the greatest tier, but I'm going to put him right below Dennis Bergkamp. When we're talking player, I would put him as a tier 1 player, but when we're talking career and the legacy he left, I have to put him in greatest and ahead of the likes of Frank Lampard. Then we go from a Man United legend to a Manchester United melon, Alexis Sanchez. I mean, it was inevitable. The guy played a horrible couple of years at Manchester United after having such a brilliant couple of years at Arsenal. His stint at United has to be forgotten and has to just be left in the past. He's a tier 4 player for me. Ruined his legacy, is down at the bottom tier. Riyad Mahrez, I mean, obviously currently a brilliant player. He's obviously leveled up a lot at City, but I do think that if you put anyone in that Manchester City side, they will play probably the best football of their career. But I'm not going to take away, because this guy carried Leicester to that Premier League title, and I believe what was 2016. Such a brilliant player, so creative, so skillful, so magical, has to be up there with the top 4 tiers. Then we have Edwin Van Der Sar, very iconic goalkeeper, but is he as iconic as the likes of Peter Cech and Schmeichel? I don't think so, so I'm going to put him in tier 2, but I'm going to put him ahead of Robin Van Persie. I mean, Robin Van Persie just keeps getting replaced. Then we have Roy Keane, tier 1 for me. I think he's very underrated for what he's done at United. Probably the best captain we will ever see. A leader, a true predator. Don't take that in the wrong way. Just someone who struck fear into everyone he played against, even the likes of referees. I mean, I remember this one story with Mark Clattenburg where he said he changed the decision because he saw Roy Keane standing up to him. Just a player like that. So we have to put him in the tier 1. Then David De Gea. Legacies means titles, legacies means memories, and he obviously hasn't won a title with that United side. However, I will say this, he has saved them countless times and is easily one of the best goalkeepers the Prem has seen, but also the most unlucky, because no matter how many brilliant performances he gives, he's only human and he can't defend that goal forever. So I'm still going to put him in tier 4, but I'm going to put him ahead of Alexis Sanchez. Then we have Peter Cech. I'm going to put him in tier 1. I think he did better than Edwin Van Der Sar, but I don't think he was as good as Peter Schmeichel, so I'll put him below Roy Keane right there. Then we have Vincent Kompany, a proper captain as well, like Roy Keane. Very strong, incredible in the air, and has a rocket of a shot, as we saw against Leicester a couple of years ago to win City that title. Kompany for me, I'd say probably tier 1 and probably ahead of Roy Keane. You know what, for the legacy he's left, I'll put him below Roy Keane, but as a player, I do think Kompany is ahead. Then Sergio Aguero, I will never understand someone who doesn't put him in the greatest tier. I believe he's got one of the top 3 most goals in the Premier League. And also, like, this guy is just such a monster. For me, okay, don't take this in the wrong way, but when you compare him to R9, okay, yes, I know what you're thinking. You're pulling your hair out of your head. Unfortunately, I can't do that because I'm bald. But the point is, I mean, his physicality, his dribbling, his agility, his balance, his shot power, his decisiveness, how good he is in these big games. He's got the most goals against top 6 sides. He has to be in the greatest tier for me. I'm putting him in the greatest tier, and I'm putting him ahead of Dennis Bergkamp. Then we have Thierry Henry. I'm gonna simply, I mean, you can't doubt it. He's probably the best player the Prem has ever seen. Then Wayne Rooney, second best for me. This guy was a monster. This guy wanted to win more than anyone on the pitch. So hardworking, so disciplined, and such a brilliant striker. Super clinical, super consistent. Scored so many iconic goals, including that Manchester City bicycle kick. John Terry, another brilliant captain, but also a brilliant player. I'm going to put him around, I'll put him below Lampard, because I do think Chelsea fans love Lampard more for what he provided on the pitch and the titles he won them. But John Terry cannot be discredited. Peter Schmeichel up there as well, but probably I'll probably put him below in the greatest tier. Unfortunately, goalkeepers won't get as much credit because they don't leave a bigger legacy than the others, but very important keeper and probably one of the best keepers that football has ever seen. Then Salah, okay. Now this is tough, because it's kind of a mix of Ronaldo and Suarez's situation. Now, he has a longevity. That's the difference. And he has 20 in every season he's played. He's played around 5 seasons at Liverpool, I think, so far. And this is his 5th. 19 goals, 10 assists. This guy is looking to have one of the best seasons a player has ever had in the Prem. I just can't see how you don't put this guy in tier 1. And I do think he's left a bigger legacy than all those other players in tier 1 for what he's done for Liverpool. Then, Ashley Cole. Now, Ronaldo did say he's the toughest player he's ever played against, and he's shown it. I mean, we don't have to only ask Ronaldo. We just look at these clips, and this guy was a defensive genius. I'm going to put him in tier 1, and I'm going to put him ahead of Vidic and Ferdinand. Didier Drogba. Honestly, for me, not the one. For me, kind of overrated. I think he's more of a big game player than how good he was as a player. He was a very iconic player and did leave a big legacy, but this is a point where we have to start thinking about player-wise. With Riyad Mahrez, I do think Mahrez offered more than Didier Drogba, and I don't think Didier Drogba was that good of a striker. His link-up play wasn't very good. His strength was great. His aerial ability was great. His striking, his shooting wasn't that good, actually. Instead of when it was in the box, which is obviously what he was tasked to do. I mean, he's a poacher. He's more of a tapping in or more of an aerial force. So I'm going to put him in tier 3. Then Scholes has to be near Lampard, but not too close, because Lampard for me slams in that debate. I'm going to put him at the top of tier 1, followed by Gerrard, and I do think Gerrard was better than Paul Scholes. Alan Shearer, most goals in Prem history, no doubt about it, and I'm going to put him ahead of Lampard and Terry, but below Ryan Giggs. And then we have Patrice Evra, tier 3 as well, pretty underwhelming, but for me, probably a better fullback than the next one, Gary Neville. I'm going to put Gary Neville in tier 4. That might upset a few people, but I just don't think he's that great of a player. He had a very professional personality, he was consistent, but he was more of a 7 or a 6 out of 10 every game he played, let's be honest. Then we have Gareth Bale. Now, same situation as Suarez, kind of, but a little bit worse. So for that, I'm going to put him in tier 2. I'm going to put him below, David Beckham, and that is my list. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought about my list in the comments below. Tell me which players you don't agree, depending on my rankings, depending on my legacy-wise thinking, depending on my player-wise thinking. I mean, I was all over the place, but I do think that list is pretty fair. I think a lot of people will agree. However, I just want to let you know, guys, that I have a new channel as well, not with football, but also with film and entertainment. Please check that out if you're interested in the likes of the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe, any film franchise, any cinema franchise, anything to do with pop culture, I guess. Check that out. Tell your thoughts in the comments down below on what you thought of my tier list. And yeah, till next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.